Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Welcome back. I know that you had a great time at the reception party banquet last night because I was there and saw everybody having fun. Now, I didn't lose my voice because of that. I haven't even started partying yet. There's an infection I had from last week. We have a great day, full of programs, starting with Professor Monica Lamb's keynote, starting right after this. I wanted to point you to the research showcase that happens right after Monica's talk. And as I said, there are these ads that talks about the different booths that are there in the showcase. There are 47 demo booths, so you'll have a lot of time. I think it starts from 9 whatever and then goes 10 whatever and goes until 1 o'clock. So use the time. Lunch starts at 11:45. So you get your lunch and then continue with the research showcase. You'll have plenty of places there to sit down and eat. We want you to check out all the different booths that are in the research showcase, talk to the people that are demoing. I do want to draw your attention again to the academic services that I mentioned yesterday. This is actually beyond just a demo. It's a set of services that we're offering. Please go to that booth and give us feedback. In particular, researchnews.com is a website that's live now. Now, don't be looking at it now because Professor Monica is going to talk, and if I catch you doing it during a talk, you know what happens. So, but do look at it, go to the booths, have a great day. I'll see you back in late in the afternoon, when I come back for Peter's closing keynote. Thank you.
Hi, welcome. I'm really glad to see you all here. I'm one of the co-chairs. I'm Catherine McKinley, and it's truly my pleasure to introduce Monica Lamb today. Keeping with our theme, she has her PhD from CMU, but for a long time she's been a professor at Stanford, and she directs the Moby Social Lab there. And Monica's research career started in compilers, where she did foundational research on software pipelining, data locality, and parallelism. This influenced the field greatly and influenced my work in particular. And I also took practical advice from Monica when I met her early in my career. If you haven't missed an airplane, you're spending too much time in airports, much to my husband's distress. And Monica's group has produced a compiler called Swift Infrastructure that many other academics, probably many in this room, have used to further their research. Also, your students are learning from her book, The Compiler Principle Techniques and Tools, the second edition of the Dragon book that she's a co-author on. She's received an enormous number of Best Paper and Test of Time awards, and she's an ACM Fellow. In 2012, Monica and her students started Moby Social, and the goal of her company is to create an open social internet where users can share anything while owning their data, and that's what she's going to talk to us about today. Please join me in welcoming Monica.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, good morning. So, the title of the talk is A Revolution Against Big Brother Social Networks. What am I talking about? How many people here are on Facebook? Okay, how many people are not on Facebook? Well, that's a lot of people not on Facebook relative to the general audience. But for those of you who are on Facebook, how many of you have read the terms of service? And you're still on Facebook? Okay, so I thought that it would be useful if we read the terms of service together, right? Because it is very interesting. Because the first thing you read in the terms of service, it says, you own your data. So what am I complaining about? Very, very simple. But then it has many, many more sentences after that. So what does the next sentence say? The next sentence says, you grant us a non-exclusive, transferable, sub-licensable, royalty-free, worldwide license to use any IP content that you post. They could have said it in 3 little words, so do we. right? But that's what they have to put down. But in case you don't understand what this means, they spell it out. They said, look, you permit a business or other entity to pay us to display your name and or profile picture with your content or information without any compensation to you. So they can make an ad out of your picture and your name and put it anywhere they want, the billboard on the freeway and whatever. And just in case you are still not understanding, it says, you understand that we may not always identify paid services and communications as such. It means that they can say that you like certain things, and your friends didn't even know that you are not saying it yourself. And I thought that was pretty scary, and I think that this is, I feel like it's a little bit of an insult, in a sense, to go this far with our personal data that we share with using Facebook. And this kind of reminds me of this picture, okay? I mean, back in the good old days, there are operators potentially being able to intercept every single call. And here we have an environment where they promise they will intercept all our calls, okay? And then, of course, they monetize it and so forth, including selling ads using our names without letting us know about it. So if you think that this is kind of sad that we're going back to those days where we have operators, you have not seen, that's not where we stop. So look at what's happening in China. In China, there is a messaging called Wechat. How many people know about Wechat? All right, so some of you don't. Let me tell you a little bit about it. It's a messaging app. But on this messaging app, they were able to roll out many, many businesses, games, taxi, P2P payment, P2P commerce. They now have their own bank. They have created their own operating system. It's called the Tencent operating system. And they want to power up the Internet of Things. And this is a closed network. By that, what do I mean? It's like if you want to, so what I heard is like if you are a large game company, if you want to distribute this game with WeChat, you just have to give them 85% of your revenues. Okay, so this is a social network that you can use to cover, to roll out many businesses, but it is mainly a closed system. This is very, very popular in China. When I was in China, they just wanted to exchange WeChat accounts with me. They don't care about my email address or my phone number. Okay, and this is happening in China. It's like, what about America? Well, Facebook bought WhatsApp for $22 billion, and there is a reason. With Facebook with 1.4 billion people and WhatsApp 600-700 million users, they cover the rest of the world quite well. And I just imagine that they just have to kind of copy WeChat, and then they can really dominate the world. So that's why I was saying, instead of saying software eats the world, social eats the world. So this is where we are at, and so there is a question. There are two very, very tough questions. The first one is privacy. There are lots of people who think that privacy is dead. There is no more privacy. But we have intellectual property in education. We have to do commerce. We have to communicate and share finance, health, and so forth. What does it mean if we don't have the ability to share data without having somebody listen to us? And if you don't care about privacy, you may want to care about a monopoly. Because of the network effect, we're getting to a point where all the communication is owned by a single company. And if that happens, only one company benefits and everybody else suffers. So the question is whether there will be open competition as a result of this. So in 2007, when the iPhone first came out, we thought about it and we said, look, there is a new mobile internet in the making. And I think it is really, we think that it is really important for the universities to have a chance to build an open system, because we know that the largest companies would like to lock people into their proprietary technologies. So we wrote a proposal to NSF, and we were very happy that we got one of the first NSF expedition, and I have Jeanette to thank for that. So we got the funding in 2008, And off we went, and we were studying how to create a programmable open mobile internet. And what I want to talk about today has three parts. The first part is I'm going to talk briefly about the research side. In the research, I mean, I'm a hardcore systems person. But what I noticed is that despite all this work on distributed systems, we ended up with this most simplistic architecture, which is a centralized system where data are owned by a single proprietary entity. And I believe that the problem is that a lot of the systems work was done without the consideration of HCI. So in the years following, in the first 4 or 5 years, we published papers only in the HCI conferences and World Wide Web conferences. As a matter of fact, we couldn't have gotten into systems conferences because we don't have data yet at that time. So anyway, so this is really a research project to combine systems and HCI. So that's the first stage, and we are very interested in really making an impact in the world. So my research group and I started this company. And we learn a lot about the go-to-market. How do we actually make it possible for the consumers to use this technology? And this is really very fundamental technology. It actually changes how the world changes the experience. And by the way, it is through the change of experience that we can get this technology adopted. Privacy by itself does not sell. Okay, so we spend all this time working on HCI. So because of this foundation, we have 7 new sharing experiences that I want to, share with you. So in 2008, we got started. We spent 4 years. In each of the first 3 years, we came up with some really bad ideas. And we learned from that. In the 4th year, we finally put it all together. And this is the result. It is actually very, very simple. But of course, we know that only simple ideas work in the end. So let's see. So on the left here is the closed and centralized networks that we know. And we have all these very, very smart phones, very powerful phones. But we still treated them like they are dumb, thin clients. Okay, we have these phones. In order to share, we attach these thin phones to a mothership, in this case, Facebook, for example. And when we want to share, we have to give up our data, let Facebook own it so that Facebook can share it with us according to the rules that they have. And that's very, very limiting for a very powerful device. I have my phones, you have your phones. We all spend money on this data plan, okay? I should be able to take a picture of you, share it with you through our data plan, and we don't need to have somebody else take the data, take the ownership of the data. This idea that, oh, it's free and therefore we should own your data, that doesn't make sense. I pay a lot of money for this data plan. So instead of doing it this way, we propose a very different architecture, and that is have the phones be able to connect with each other, right? Today I have your phone number, I can call you. I don't care what social network that you join, but I can call you. What we see in the future is that you have a phone number. My app can connect with your app on your phone, and that's it. And why can't we do that? It's because of TCP/IP addressing. Okay? I don't even know my TCP/IP address, let alone yours. I cannot connect with you based on our IP address. So what we need is a chatting protocol, it's a messaging protocol that allows us to use identities that we know, such as your phone number, your email address, your Facebook account. And so that's how we came up with this concept of a chat system that allows you to use existing identities. It's a group messaging network. That means that if I want to send a message to 3 people, I create a group just like I create a email header with 3 names, and I say I want to send it to these 3 people. It goes straight to the messenger. The messenger takes a look, and then everybody has to kind of register with this messaging layer. And so when it receives a message, it says it goes to these 3 guys, then it knows which machines or which phones that the system has to notify. Then they notify the systems come back, they pick up the message, and the messaging system can delete the data. Okay, so because the phones are not necessarily on all the time, the policy here is that the messaging system will keep the data for 2 weeks. So that's the underlying networking, the underlying messaging system. And on top of that, we provide all the apps to have the API into the system. So this allows you, for example, to build a little Scrabble game between 4 phones without having a single server. All right? Because how do you write a Scrabble game? It is this, when I play a game, I play a word. It's just a message going to those 3 phones. There's no need to stand up a server. Okay? If I don't have a server out there, there's absolutely no way I'm leaking any private data. Okay, which is a very different architecture from what we have today, which is all, every single time you interact with somebody, it has to go through a server who usually takes the ownership of the data. So that's the core. And in the meantime, you'd say, what does it mean? You're going to delete the data, then how am I supposed to keep my data? It's like when I pick up a new phone, if I lose a new phone, where's the data? So what we do is that we let every single person to decide where they want to keep their data. It could be a box or Dropbox or the SkyDrive or the Google Drive. And if you're in China, maybe you're using the Baidu Cloud and so forth. So it allows every person to choose their own cloud service. And I think this is very important because, if you look at the international scenario, right? I mean, there is a lot of reason why a citizen in a foreign country may not want to keep their data in an American storage. I think that is pretty well understood because of the Snowden and because of what happened, and we all know how the government is able to get access to users' data everywhere. So what we have created really here is a combination of a chatting system with a lot of APIs, so allow everybody to build on top of it. And then it is also distributing this social data. So in other words, we take the social network and turn it inside out. So instead of everybody putting the data into the middle, we all decide where it is, and then we're just distributing the data to the cloud service of your choice, and they all interoperate. So technically, what we have created is a distributed semantic file system. Okay, what does that mean? Semantic file system means that you can refer to the data based on who, what, how, where, when, as opposed to file names. There are no meaningful file names on a mobile device. And at the same time, it is distributed because now they are stored in all the different places. And it is running on top of an open messaging system that is basically a content-based addressing network. Okay, and there are 2 sets of APIs. There are the cloud APIs, and then we expose the semantic file system to native apps, to OEM apps, to server app. There's also a server app API. And we also create a new kind of app, new kind of API, and that is the P2P web app API. That means it can write a little little web code that kind of runs only on the phones without having a server, and it is just routed by the messaging layer. Okay. So that's the technology that we have created. So let's talk about the second part, which is how to go to market. So what we have created is this distributed semantic file system. How do you go to market? It's really, we learned a lot in the last 3 years. So we started the research in 2008, and our team started the company in 2012. And by March 2014, we have a product. It is called the Omelette Chat. And we launched at South by Southwest last March. And last March, there was a lot, the keynotes were Assange and Snowden. There was a lot of interest in privacy, and we became the most tweeted app at the launch. And we were also included as part of iStanford. And what it means is that, iStanford is the official app from Stanford, and they point to Omelette because the registrar really wants to encourage students to use a social network that does not own their intellectual property. And at the same time, we got a lot of press very excited about what we're doing because of we are just breaking the paradigm. So Inc. magazine has a printed article on us, and they said that Omelette is an insanely ambitious assault on the entire Facebook model. And VentureBeat talked about our PAMI, our NSF expedition, and they said that this Stanford team is reinventing the entire internet for just $10 million. So we're very excited about the launch. And then the next question is, how do we move the masses to, there are 1.4 billion people on Facebook and hundreds of millions on WeChat. How do we get to the end users? So after spending some time on it, we discovered that the key here is that there is interest in open systems. I mean, remember the AOL days, okay? The AOL says that, you go through our browser and this is the links that you're supposed to visit. But eventually that went away and we have an open internet because we all want to go visit there are many, many companies out there other than AOL. So what we discovered is that there were a lot of companies who are interested in an open system. And a lot of it has to do with that they saw the threat of WeChat. And so because of all the businesses being rolled out inside WeChat, there is a threat of companies like WeChat and Facebook basically recreating all the different kind of apps under their social umbrella. They're kind of putting, they're trying, in a sense, they are eating this world of apps. Instead of doing that, we offer a different alternative, and that is that if you take the existing apps that are out there, make them social, all under a common social network, under the same open umbrella, then we will be then the companies can participate and the consumers get a better experience. So Omelette becomes kind of like a catalyst. It's just a neutral technology that brings all the different companies together to create a social network. And so even though we are a little company, we actually get the support of the largest companies. So this is the good news is that many large partners have joined Omelette. And we have two announced partners, so those ones I can share with you. As I mentioned, we launched in March 2014, and by May 2014, we are already embedded on every single phone that ASUS built. Okay, so we were working with them. A year before we launched. So they actually were a really great partner. They helped us finish the app. A lot of people said to me, it's like, why are you working with OEMs? They slow you down. I said, they didn't. They actually helped us finish the product faster. So ASUS launched last year in May, and Huawei announced at CES this year that they are our partner. And maybe some of you are not familiar with Huawei and the phone business, but they are actually the #3 largest game makers in the world. So we're very excited about the partnership, and we will be launching very, very soon with Huawei. They made 80 million phones last year. Okay, so we're very excited, and I think we will get to many, many more users. And by the way, they didn't just preload us. They actually built their apps on top of us because we are a social platform, and I will show you an example of that in a little bit. So OEMs are a distribution partner. We also have some content partners. We are partnering with many large game companies. There's media, and there are also financial institutions that want to work with us, and that we are partnering with. So between all these partners, we expect that in the next couple of years we will reach hundreds of millions of users through our partners. So, and our partners, they call us the Switzerland of social, okay? And what that means is that we are a neutral company, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the technology is built in the university, And we talk to every company. We are not. This is not technology built by any large company. So they felt like when we say we are open, people believe us. And I think that is a very important role that university researchers can play. So they call us the Switzerland of social. So that's a short description of 3 years of very hard work. Let us talk about what this means when you kind of adopt when you have an open messaging system at the bottom. And I want to talk about 7 new sharing experiences. All right, so number 7. We're going to see a new style of web apps. Instead of server client, we're going to see a lot of P2P web apps, and they will be replacing these siloed experiences. Because today, if I want to, any kind of social experience that we want, we have to go and recreate a social network. But in this model, you don't have to do that because your groups of friends are on your phone directly. All right, so let me explain this. So far, I have not shown anything about the user experience, but everything is about the user experience. So let's get started. So how do you explain a user experience? I want to show you how we used our phone, okay? How we use this messaging system. So this is a real example, okay? I went to a Stanford football game, and I'm sitting right behind this guy in the white shirt, and I took a picture of the field. That's the background. And we were doing extremely well that game, and every single time we get a touchdown, this guy sitting in front of me with a white shirt will take off his white shirt and chest bump his friend in front of everybody in the stadium, okay? So I figured that it is fair game. So I took a picture of them, and then I have a lot of my teammates are working. They are not enjoying a football team, so I thought I would share that experience with them. So I took a picture and share it in this Omelette chat. And so soon after that, within a couple of minutes, one of my former students and co-founder, Ian, thought that these 2 guys were not nude enough. So they took a little app called Nudifier, and then they added some more flesh tone to this picture. And we had a good laugh. And then another kid got up and they say, "Oh, I have another idea about what to do with this picture." And he just took the picture, quickly edited it with some of those, those small apps on the phone, and add a little bit of comment and share it back out with our team. And I thought that was pretty funny. And look at how many likes that Ben got. So the whole point here is we are actually collaborating. We are not just putting up a picture for people to see. You can take this picture, click it, do something with it, and share back. And this is something that you will never see on an email system or on a Facebook system. And at that point, I decided that they really like this experience, so I just wanted to show them what it means. And we just took a little GIF and actually showed them what is happening in the stadium at Stanford. And the reason why we were able to do this is that in this messaging app, there is a drawer that is a plus sign. And when you click on it, you see, oh, I got many, many likes. And then there is a drawer of these apps. And it is an open API. Anybody can write apps and stick it into this drawer. Just like you have a browser, you should be able to visit many, many, many different web pages without having to download an app every single time. So this is an open API, and everybody can write apps in this format. So for example, one of the kids wrote an app on, this is called Animotions. And instead of using can stickers, you can click, in a few days, he wrote a little app where he actually can express himself in these GIFs. And now whenever he talks, he can just pick these little clips of himself to talk to his friends. Okay, so it is a fully extensible system. It is very, very easy to do. To give you an example, how many people have played 2048? Nope. Oh, oh, okay. It's a very simple little open source piece of software. And one of my non-programming employees says that she wants to share the score. She really likes this game. So we taught her how to turn this little app into a social app. You add about 13 lines of tiny little lines over there, and now you're able to take the score of a game and then share with your friends and challenge your friends. Okay, why? It's because all the work in creating groups and sharing and messaging are done, and we exposed it and let everybody else kind of just write a little code and take advantage of it. So just another example here. Rishabh Jain at that time, he was a sophomore, and he thought that it would be cool if you take a picture and show it for a few seconds and delete the picture. Have you heard of that before? Okay, that's kind of like what Snapchat does for you. But instead of building a company that is currently what, 15 billion, 20 billion? I'm losing track. So he built a little app that allows you to share the pictures in a few seconds, and he was able to do it like in 2 days, okay? Because it's not difficult to make a picture disappear. But the concept here is that you don't have to recreate a social network every single time you want to experiment with a new social interaction. By the way, I'm not saying that this is going to take off, all right? I mean, everybody is already using Snapchat for what Snapchat can do very well. But this is just an illustration because there are many, many more high school students out there that can come up with new experiences that they can write and extend this browser with. Now that is maybe, I don't know how many people here use Snapchat. How many people here use Snapchat? Not that many. How many people here use Git repositories? All right. So here's an app that you might be interested in. So what this app does is that it uses the server API so that whenever you commit something to the repository, the comment is sent to the group in real time. Okay. So we call this Git Chat. And this app was very easy to build. It was like a 2 days effort because we have the server API. And by the way, this is a function that you can pay for. I think that there is a company out there and you pay something like $7 per programmer every month in order to get this functionality. But in this case, it is all free. Okay? Anybody can connect their Git repository to this chat. And every time somebody checks in, you get a real-time notification. What does that do to a group? What it does is that it got our group to write a lot more comments, okay? Because now, typically you write comments and nobody reads them because you just check out and who sees those comments. But now it is distributed in real time. So what it means is that if some engineer, worked really hard and checked in some bug fix in the middle of the night, the next morning everybody saw the bug fix and they would congratulate this guy and thank him and stuff like that. So what we have done now is to create is to turn coding into a very social experience. And it has done wonders for the group because we kind of acknowledge each other and we help each other, and it is a really interesting experience. But this is a tiny little app that we just throw in and it works. All right. So in other words, what we see here is that with these P2P web apps, it will replace many, many companies like Evite. You don't need to have a company just to help you with invitations or Doodle or even WebEx because it is very easy to share within a group. And now the best part is that you form one group and now you can use all the different apps without setting up a social network every single time. So that's number 7. There's 6 to go. All right, what is number 6? The number 6 is that you can do dynamic data exchange for mobile groups very, very easily. So how many people have a phone with you? You can actually participate in my live demo. Okay, so I have created, actually, I have already got some people joining this chat. I have created a chat. If you have Omelette, you can go to this page where you see nearby chats, and you will notice that I have started a chat called the Microsoft Faculty Summit. You can all join, and then we can connect right now. We can talk right now. Let me take a picture of you guys. All right, I just shared it with everybody who has Omelette. Okay, if you joined this chat. So I tried it at another conference. I gave a keynote at the Tizen Developer Conference, and this is what happened. I took a picture just like that with the people in the audience on stage, and then I said I also have my Tizen watch. So I told them I'm going to use my watch to take a picture of them using the watch. So that picture over there is with my phone. The picture down there is with my watch. But as I was doing that, the audience were sharing pictures of me in real time, okay? So there is somebody in the audience that took a picture of me, taking a picture of them. And that one in the top right corner is kind of interesting. What is that? What is it? It's a picture that was a mirror image picture. Who took that picture? It's a person backstage. Okay, so somebody backstage actually took a picture of me, taking a picture of the people in the front, and we all share it in real time. So this is very easy to do, and it's just a little tool that we have. It is open to anybody. You can use it for anything, like at a conference or at a nightclub. Okay, so when we launched at South by Southwest, Gabriel and Justin, they were one of the top DJs in America. They used Omelette in their nightclub. So they took pictures of the audience took pictures of them. At the same time, they were telling the audience what songs they are playing, and they were telling them what songs they want to hear. You can imagine at this club, it was very, very noisy. And even the person next to you, you cannot really talk to them, so you can just message with each other. But the cool thing about this is that it allows people to join up. We interact at the conference or outside or after the conference, and there is nothing more to it. You don't become my Facebook friends just because we happen to be at a nightclub together. Okay, so the point really here is that if you look at these two scenarios, what we are used to is that there will be an app for conference, a web for wedding, and a web for the nightclubs and stuff like that, but there is no need for that. You can use it for anything. And the best part here is that this is a piece of the data being exchanged stay with the group. There is no company owning the data being exchanged. So that's number 6. What is number 5? Number 5 is that we will be seeing these natively social phones. So for example, this is the social gallery that ASUS made, our first partner. Okay, so we're used to having galleries of all the pictures that we take individually. Or we can go to a wedding and then we put pictures up. But it is usually my pictures of the wedding and you took the pictures you take of the same wedding. But what we are able to do here is to create a collaborative photo album in real time and share it using your Android, using your gallery. So let me walk you through that. So the first panel over there shows you the view of the gallery. It says these are all the collaborative photo albums. That means that all the pictures taken come from your friends and yourself. It is not only pictures that you take. So we did that at a wedding. This was Ben's wedding, and then if you click on the photo album, you see that there is a front page, and then there are all these people participating. If I click on the person, then you see that I can chat with this person directly, and when I'm done chatting, I return to the gallery. And the gallery, all the pictures have social features on it. It has hearts on these pictures. And if you click into it, you know who are the people liking the bride's picture. And I can like the picture right on the spot, right with the pictures inside the gallery. I don't have to go join a social network so that we can like each other's pictures. Okay, so that is in your gallery. And this group that you have in this gallery can be used with any app on the phone. If I write a little game, I want to tap into this group, I just make an API call and I was able to do this. So this app was created by ASUS. They did not write a single line of server code or messaging code. They just call our API on the phone. And the groups belong to the phone. They never know what groups you have. Okay, so I mentioned that we have a semantic semantic file system. It's just a diagram to show how you can locate pictures by just following the information of the semantic links. So that's number 5. Let's move along. Number 4 is that we're going to see a lot more vertical social networks. So for example, Facebook started out as a vertical social network for Harvard to connect with each other. But soon after that, it becomes generic. And what we saw is that there are a lot of special purpose, single purpose social networks. And of course, Facebook has to pick them up because people are moving away from, are interacting outside of the generic networks. And then there are then we saw WhatsApp and Wechat. These are the general purpose group of communications. But Uber is an example of a very, very vertical social network that connects drivers and riders together. And what we imagine in the future is that there will be many, many more networks. They are relatively easy to build because now we have these platforms for creating social networks. For example, edX. You want students in America to be able to work with students in China and sharing documents and communicating on their projects. But today, of course, Facebook and Google are not inside China, and we're not really able to do use some of these most common tools. So what we see here is the rise of more vertical social networks with the help of these open social platforms. That's number 4. Number 3, we're going to see a lot of use of the messenger, the chats, for businesses. So here's just some examples. So for example, a bank may be talking to you and say, I see that you are making a charge in Japan. Are you there? And instead of using the very insecure SMS or email, they can use the system because all the endpoints are validated. I'm happy to respond because I know that that is Bank of America on the other side. They can also put in apps that will help you with the travel, such as, they know which flight you are on, so when you miss your flight, you don't have to stand in line. There will be these apps on your phone, and then you just click, and they already know what your bags look like and so forth. You don't have to stand, they know the context of the conversation. So that's number 3. All right, what is number 2? Number 2 is the Internet of Things. John Chambers said that the Internet of Things is a $19 trillion market. Do you believe it? Yeah? Well, I do. Google spent $3.2 billion on just a thermostat company. And that's not that far, to get to the $1 trillion market. Why did they spend so much money on a thermostat company? It's because of the data, okay? And when that happens, there are a lot of questions. Financial Times asked, who will be the Google of the Internet of Things? Who do you think it is? Do you really want to have a Google of the Internet of Things? Google searches the whole world so that you can now tap into it and find out everything. Do you really want to have a Google of the Internet of Things so you can tap into everybody's bedroom, video cameras, and so forth? Is that really where we are heading? Possible, okay? So, for example, obviously, your security camera should notice who's in the house or who's not in the house and to turn down the heat accordingly. And so these devices have to talk to each other. If the only thing we know how to build is data centers where all the data communicate, then we might get into a situation again where there is a winner-takes-all situation where all the different devices are connected to the same data center. So the picture that I showed you where we have an open messaging for distributed phones can be applied to the Internet of Things where things can be connected. So that you just create these little networks, and there is no need for anybody to be in the middle of all the communications. And what we see here is that the messaging layer can, when it comes to Internet of Things, you don't have to run all the same apps. You don't have to run all the games and so forth. There is no reason to stick to one or two operating systems. But it is very important that they all interact with each other. It's a little bit like HTML5, right? The server and client, they all interact with each other. So what we are proposing here is that if we can standardize on an open messaging network, then it can run across all the different operating systems. And then one way for you to interconnect them with writing these P2P web apps, it is very, very lightweight. And now you really see the ability for many, many devices to interact with each other. So that is my number 2, the distributed Internet of Things. Okay, you ready for number 1? So what we see here is like if we succeed with this vision, that means that a lot of things will be connected via this distributed network. And what we really believe in is that all this traffic would be worked out all the way down to the hardware equipment, maybe using the software-defined networks that my colleague developed in the same programmable open mobile internet expedition funded by NSF. And that would be a new basis that supports mobile devices and the Internet of Things. So let me conclude here. It's like we are still at the early stage of a new computer generation. We have seen the swing from mainframes to PCs, back to the cloud, and with mobile devices, the only scalable thing to do really is to have distribution, and it is really the beginning of what people call a privacy economy, and I believe it will be supported by distributed computing. There's a lot of research topics here, and I hope that the researchers can jump in and pitch in, and download Omelette and talk to me, talk to everybody using an open messaging system. Well, thank you for your attention, and I don't know how much time we have.
We have time for some questions, so raise your hand and they'll come race to you with the microphone. Number 2 gets to go first.
Yeah, hi. My question is, how would an open programmable network like Omelette make money? What's the monetization model?
We discovered that it's possible. The reason is that there are a lot of companies that want to make more money by adopting social features, and we help them with the social features, and they are happy to share some of that revenues with us. And so we are a friend rather than their enemy, and because we allow all the companies to retain their user relationships, they're happy to pull together to create this network, but they do need a lot of help, and we provide that, and that's how we can make money, especially if everybody is on top of an open system. We will have a lot of customers.
What's the power cost of a fully distributed, shared, say, gallery at a wedding where 300 people are all sharing images off their phones to each other directly versus getting them out of the cloud off of somebody's server?
That's an interesting question. I just want to make sure I don't know if I explained it properly, but when we send a message to 300 people, we send one message to the server. There is a server, and then it is then distributed to all the other phones. This is very important because some of the times the phones are not online, and it has to be held.
2. Cami Vanya, University of Edinburgh. When I just went and tried to install the app, it had a phenomenal number of permissions it wanted. An impressive number, actually.
Yes.
I haven't seen that many for quite very many apps.
Yes.
And since I do some privacy research, there was an immediate gut reaction of, oh, dear God, I don't want this on my phone. I'm wondering how, because you've done a lot of work with the user experience on this, how much are you seeing an initial adoption problem from some of these initial permission requests and the amount of potential invasiveness to create an app of this type, which is privacy sensitive?
Very good question. So I talked to some Facebook people, and they said that they did an experiment where they changed the number of permissions, and it has no effect on whether people will download the app or not. So that's for the layman, okay? But for you, what I would suggest is that you look at our terms of service. We have now gotten to a point where we think that as long as you have access to my camera or whatever, everything belongs to them. And that's why we are very sensitive, or the privacy-oriented people, very sensitive to the permissions. But if you look at our terms of service, it doesn't give me any right to do anything with it. And this is something that I'm very, sad about, that we have kind of forgot about the terms of service. We don't, Facebook can put in a pretty nasty terms of service, and they get all the users anyway. So we kind of have to educate the people that it is really what contract I have with you. And by us having all these permissions, this allows us to then manage the devices. And when you have apps that use us, whether they have the permission or not, that is something we can control. And then we also have to, we kind of have to ask the user if they grant those permissions to the people that use us. Okay, so we are kind of like a part of the social operating system, and that is the reason why we have to have so many permissions.
3. Hello. I'm wondering what happens if you have a data plan and you share a picture with 100 people, so there is no server between. My picture is going to be accessed 100 times using my data?
We do have servers. Okay, it is just the business policy that stops us from owning your data. So you only send one message to the server, and the server notifies all these phones, and when they come in, ask for the data, then we give it to them.
So for how long is this data stored in your
2
servers?
weeks.
Oh, I see.
Because the system we have works for multiple devices. So some people may have a tablet and they don't turn it on all the time. Okay. And they came from the same, they're able to keep all their devices synced up. We drop the data after 2 weeks, but if you hooked up a backup, a cloud service with it, then the data will be streaming out of your own cloud service.
2.
Oh, that's me. Hi, Lily Chang. This is awesome. I just love the experimentation, so thanks a lot for showing it. If you guys haven't tried it out, there's a bunch of people I don't know in there, so it's really fun. And if you're sitting nearby, we've been taking pictures of you and drawing mustaches on you and things like that. But one question that I have is, we've been looking a lot at group communication. So right now we have a group chat. How is the use of group chat different? And do you think the storage concerns are different for groups? Because sometimes groups might want to access that shared information over time or persist that group. So I'm just wondering about how you let users, especially in groups, persist information.
So we have given a lot of thoughts to that. And a messaging system typically is for close friends. And this is also an area that Facebook didn't do very well on, and that's the focus. But there are also reasons why people may have more open group discussions. So for example, if I have a group at the stadium, okay, many people may be participating. And at that point, you will change how you want to support that. I kind of talked about the concept of a vertical social network. So for specific apps where you expect a public audience, then you will take the primitives that we have, and then you throw a server at it. And then you may not have the same policies about the delivery of messages and so forth. So it is something that that is also available, and it is complementary to what we are talking about here. So we can talk more offline about this.
One last question. Number 4.
Yes. No. I,
So this looks like a really nice open backend for mobile apps, right? Do I still have to trust all the apps that are written on top of the platform?
So for example, our OEM has all the permissions. Our OEM partners, well, they have all the permissions. But for everybody else, the basic thing that we do is the single origin policy. All right? You can only look at the data that you generate. And then on top of that, if you are accessing sensors and so forth, then we need to get the permission from the individuals. So think a little bit like the browser today. And the browser is a way for you to enforce some amount of security and privacy. And this is basically the same thing here. So we are very much like, the browser, we think of it as the web OS, because now it sits across all the different operating systems. And in the same way, we're kind of like the social OS. And what we really want to do is to be on every single device, like a browser is on every single device these days.
All right, I think we have one more in the back.
Is this working? Yeah. So a lot of what you talked about was predicated on the fact that it's distributed, but you're going to a server. So isn't it like, regardless of how long it's in the server, it's in a server that's potentially on U.S. soil, so all of your privacy concerns, all of your trust is really just now being delegated from Facebook to your organization, and it's not really decentralized?
First of all, the most important difference is that Facebook has the entire history of all the years that you have spent on Facebook, starting from the day you're born in some cases. Okay? In our case, we are only keeping the data for 2 weeks. And we actually have a distributed protocol. We have a server inside China. And if all the information is between people in China, then it never leaves the Chinese soil. Okay? So we believe that you have to have a server because these are mobile devices, they're on and off. So think of it as we really have tried to put in whatever, the minimum amount of access so that we can make this work, so that we can give people a good user experience. And the most important thing is look at our terms of service. It is different from the terms of service from Google and from Facebook.
All right, thank you,
Okay,
Monica.
Thank you. Just can I say one more thing? Because I know that there are a lot of people from different countries. If it is, I think it is great if we can have you guys try it out. Hey, take it back home, build apps or experiment and do research on top of it, and that would be great because most social networks are started by the 15-year-old kids. And now, maybe we can start one among the computer scientists who actually understand the issues of centralized social networks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you on Omelette.
Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.